I've been sitting on this for a while, and it's been hard to find the right words. The past few months have turned my life upside down, and I'm not sure where to start. Maybe sharing my story will help me make sense of it all. I'm a 42-year-old guy named Mark, and I've been married to my wife, Jennifer, for nearly 20 years. We've got two grown kids, and just when we thought it was time to enjoy the golden years, everything exploded. We were supposed to be planning our son's wedding together. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion, filled with love and laughter. But instead, I started to notice little things that made me question everything. Jennifer, who was always the life of the party, became distant. Her laughter faded and her phone buzzed more than usual. At first, I chalked it up to pre-wedding stress. After all, it's a big deal for our son, and I figured she was just overwhelmed. But then came the late nights. She'd say she was working late at the office, but something didn't sit right. I noticed a change in her demeanor, too. She started dressing differently, wearing clothes that seemed out of place for a typical evening at home. I'd find her in the bathroom, meticulously applying makeup before dinner like she was getting ready for a date. I thought I was being paranoid, so I ignored it. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things because I didn't want to believe my wife would cheat on me. The breaking point came one Friday night when I came home early. I was excited to surprise her with a nice dinner. I walked in and found the house empty and silent. I called out for her, but there was no answer. That's when I noticed her purse on the kitchen counter and something compelled me to check her phone. I knew it was wrong, but curiosity got the better of me. As soon as I unlocked her phone, I was hit with a flood of texts that left me breathless. There it was, a conversation between Jennifer and some guy named Derek. They were exchanging flirty messages, talking about their secret dates and how they couldn't wait to be together again. My heart sank. I felt like I was punched in the gut. I couldn't believe what I was reading. This wasn't just a one-time slip, this was an affair. I scrolled through the messages, my mind racing with disbelief and anger. How could she do this to us, to our family? I was shaking as I read the texts, and I knew I had to confront her. She came home a little while later, and the moment she walked through the door, I could see that she was guilty. I could feel it in the air. I confronted her right there in the living room, holding her phone like a smoking gun. "Jennifer, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. She froze, her face pale. I showed her the messages, and for a split second I saw panic in her eyes. But then she shifted gears, putting on her defensive mask. "Mark, that's not what you think," she exclaimed. Her voice was high-pitched, and I could tell she was scrambling for a lie. She started spouting off excuses about how Derek was just a coworker and how it was all harmless fun, that I was being paranoid. But I wasn't buying it. The confrontation turned ugly fast. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, and confusion. It hurt to hear her minimize what she had done. "You don't understand, it's not like that," she shouted, but I was done listening to her excuses. I had seen enough. I took a deep breath and tried to gather my thoughts. This wasn't just about me. It was about our family and everything we had built together. Our kids were about to embark on their own journeys, and I couldn't let her betrayal wreck what we had. But I was lost in the anger and sadness, trying to process the reality of the situation. As the fight escalated, I felt my resolve hardening. This wasn't something I could just overlook. I had to think about my next steps carefully. I had to decide how to move forward. So here I am, standing at a crossroads. I never imagined I'd be in this position, contemplating the end of my marriage. What do I do now? That's the burning question in my mind, but there's more to this story than just my pain. If you're out there and reading this, maybe you've been through something like this too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you do in my situation? How do you cope when trust is shattered? Because I have a feeling this is only the beginning of a long journey ahead. After confronting Jennifer, I felt like I was in a fog. The anger was still steaming beneath the surface, but I also felt an overwhelming sense of loss. The wife I thought I knew, the woman who stood by my side through thick and thin, was now a stranger to me. I had so many questions swirling in my head, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it all. That night was one of the longest in my life. We barely spoke after our fight. Jennifer attempted to defend herself, but all I could hear were her lies and excuses, and I realized that the woman I had been married to all these years had been hiding something deep and dark. I couldn't think about anything else. The image of her with Derek kept circling back, taunting me like a cruel reminder of how easily trust could be shattered. After a sleepless night, I decided I had to take action. I needed to figure out how deep this betrayal ran. I didn't want to jump to conclusions or make rash decisions without knowing the full story. So I started digging. I knew it wasn't the healthiest option, but at that moment it felt necessary. The next day I went through Jennifer's things. I took her phone again, flipping through photos and messages. I found more evidence, pictures of her and Derek at a bar, laughing and flirting. It gnawed at me. I felt sick to my stomach. I even found a message where she told him she loved him. Those 3 words pierced through me like a knife. I could hardly breathe. How could she throw away everything we built, everything we had, for someone else? I still wanted to confront her again, but I needed to be strategic. I scheduled a call with my best friend, Tom. He had been through a divorce a few years back, and I wanted his perspective. When I told him everything that was happening, he listened intently. "Mark, you've got to think about what you want moving forward," he said. "You can't let this tear you apart. You deserve respect." That's when I realized I had to make a decision. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about our kids. They were getting married soon, and I couldn't put them through a messy divorce right before their big day. But could I live with her? Could I even look her in the eye again? I decided to dig deeper into her life, and over the next few days I became a detective. I followed her once, stealthily tracking her movements while she thought I was at home. I felt like a lunatic, but I couldn't help it. I had to know the truth. I saw her meet up with Derek at a coffee shop, and it was everything I feared. They were all smiles, and they even hugged like old friends. My heart was breaking all over again, and I felt a rage building inside me, but I also felt something else: empowerment. I was taking control of the narrative. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without a fight. I planned my next move, but I wanted it to be impactful. I needed to confront her one last time, but this time it would be on my terms. That weekend, I decided to sit her down for a serious talk. I told her I wanted to discuss us and the future of our family. I made it clear that I was serious, that this wasn't just a casual conversation. I wanted her to know that I was ready to lay it all out on the table. When the moment came, my heart was racing. I poured out my feelings, telling her that I knew everything about her affair. I described the messages I had read and the pictures I had seen. The shock on her face was almost satisfying. Her mouth fell open, and for a moment she looked genuinely horrified. But then, true to form, she tried to spin it again. "Mark, you don't understand the pressure I was under," she exclaimed. "I was just trying to feel good about myself. That's when I lost it. Feel good about yourself. By cheating on your husband. By lying to me and your family." I could feel the heat rising in my chest. It was hard to speak through the anger, but I had to get my feelings out. "You think this is about me being jealous. It's about the fact that you betrayed our family." I could see it in her eyes. She knew she was cornered. I pressed on. "If you really cared about us, you wouldn't have done this. You don't get to play the victim here." I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders as I spoke the truth. I had to remind myself that I was not the one at fault. Her response was defensive. She claimed it was just a fling, that she was unhappy, and that I had pushed her away. I couldn't believe my ears. She was still trying to turn it around on me. That was the final straw. I knew in that moment that I had to draw a line in the sand. I couldn't let her manipulate me any longer. I told her I needed time to think. I needed to decide if I could ever trust her again. I didn't know what the next steps would be. What would I tell our kids? How would I move forward? I had no answers, just a heart full of pain and betrayal. But I knew one thing for sure: I wouldn't let her lies and deceit define me. I was determined to reclaim my life, even if it meant facing the hardest decisions I'd ever have to make. After our explosive confrontation, I felt lost and overwhelmed. I was trudging through a fog of emotions, trying to make sense of the chaos Jennifer had brought into our lives. It was hard to focus on anything else, to think about anything but the betrayal. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss that held the unknown. I spent the next few days alternating between anger and sadness. I was consumed by thoughts of our kids and the upcoming wedding. How would they react if they found out? I didn't want to ruin their special day, but I also couldn't keep this festering wound a secret. I needed to figure out how to communicate my feelings without dragging them into the mess Jennifer created. I leaned on Tom for support. He was my sounding board, and he reminded me to focus on my own well-being. "Mark, you need to think about what you want," he kept saying. "You don't have to decide everything right now, but you have to stand your ground. You deserve respect." One night while sitting on the couch in silence, I found myself staring at the wedding photos from our own big day. I traced my fingers over Jennifer's smiling face, the joy radiating from her. It felt like a lifetime ago, and yet those memories were tied up with the person I thought I knew. I felt sick to my stomach. I decided that I needed to get my thoughts organized. I started writing down all the things I felt about the situation: the anger, the betrayal, the love I still had for her, and the fear of losing everything. Writing helped me process the whirlwind inside my head. I listed all my feelings, but also the realities of our situation. I needed to confront the facts. I couldn't let my emotions dictate my decisions. While my heart was heavy, I also realized something. This situation had opened my eyes to the flaws in our marriage that I had ignored for years. We had drifted apart, each wrapped up in our own lives and careers. I was guilty of not being present enough, not paying attention to the little things that mattered. But that didn't excuse her infidelity. As the days turned into a week, I knew I had to face Jennifer again. I wanted to lay it all out: my feelings, my fears, and my thoughts about our future. I needed to know if she was willing to put in the work to rebuild trust, or if she was just going to continue with her excuses. It was time for a real conversation, one that would determine the fate of our marriage. I called her into the living room one evening. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and I could see the apprehension in her eyes. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my tone calm despite the storm brewing inside me. "About what?" she asked, feigning innocence, but I could tell she felt the weight of our unresolved issues. "I want to talk about us. I want to know if you're ready to take responsibility for what happened. Are you willing to work on our marriage, or are you just hoping it will all blow over?" I looked directly into her eyes, searching for any hint of sincerity. Jennifer looked taken aback. "Mark, I told you I made a mistake. It was just a phase. I was feeling neglected," she exclaimed, her voice rising defensively. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Neglected? So you thought cheating was the answer?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You betrayed our family, Jennifer. You think I want to hear excuses? I want honesty. Do you want to fix this, or are you just looking for a way to save face?" She fell silent, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. It was a moment of clarity for me. I was laying everything on the table, and I needed her to do the same. "I want to try," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do love you, Mark. I don't want to lose you." I didn't respond right away because I wasn't sure if I believed her. The words sounded sincere, but I had heard so many lies before. "Love isn't enough right now," I said, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You need to show me you're committed to fixing this. It's going to take time, and I need to see you put in the effort." "I will, I promise," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. We talked for hours, hashing out our feelings and fears. I told her about the moments I felt neglected and how I had failed to pay attention to her needs. I recounted the happiness we once had, the adventures we shared before life got in the way. It was painful but necessary. As the conversation unfolded, something shifted in me. I realized that while I was hurt, I still loved her. We had a history, a past that was rich with memories, and even though trust had been broken, I wasn't ready to throw it all away just yet. But I also knew that actions spoke louder than words. I needed to set boundaries and expectations. "We're going to need therapy," I declared. "We need a professional to help us navigate this. I can't do this alone." She nodded, her expression one of relief mixed with fear. "Okay, I'll go. I'll do whatever it takes, Mark. Please don't give up on me." I sat back, feeling a mix of apprehension and hope. It was a step forward, but it was just the beginning of a long journey. I would have to stay vigilant and attentive, and also be willing to confront my own shortcomings. Facing this might just save our marriage, or it could lead us to a point of no return. But I knew that whether we succeeded or failed, I would emerge stronger. I wouldn't allow her betrayal to define me. I was ready to reclaim my life, whatever that would look like moving forward. It would take time, patience, and a willingness to confront the truth of our situation. And as I sat there with her, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be the hardest battle I would ever face. But I was determined to fight for my family, no matter the outcome. As the days turned into weeks, Jennifer and I began our journey toward reconciliation. We decided to seek therapy, which was both terrifying and hopeful. I was apprehensive about opening up to a stranger, but I knew we needed guidance to navigate the emotional wreckage we had created. Our first session was a day I won't forget. We arrived at the therapist's office, both of us a bundle of nerves. I could feel the tension between us, and when we sat down in the cozy room, surrounded by soft lighting and soothing decor, I was struck by how surreal it all felt. Could we really fix this? Our therapist, Dr. Collins, was warm and approachable, immediately putting us at ease. She encouraged us to share our feelings openly and honestly, and I felt a mix of relief and vulnerability. We began talking about our marriage, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Jennifer spoke about her feelings of loneliness and how she felt I had been emotionally unavailable. It stung to hear her say that, but I had to take responsibility for my part in it. I had been so focused on work and providing for our family that I neglected to check in with her emotionally. I was trying to be a good husband in my own way, but I failed to recognize her needs. I felt like I had to seek attention elsewhere, she admitted, her voice quivering. I thought it was just harmless flirting at first. I didn't mean for it to go as far as it did. Hearing her say that was like a punch to the gut. I grappled with the conflicting emotions of anger and empathy. I wanted to scream at her for her choices, but part of me also felt pity for the pain she had experienced. I can't just overlook what you did, I said. You made a choice to hurt me, to hurt our family. And while I understand why you felt lonely, it doesn't excuse the affair. Dr. Collins nodded, guiding us to dig deeper into our emotional wounds. This is a crucial moment for both of you, she said gently. You're facing the consequences of your actions, Jennifer and Mark. You're confronting the reality of your marriage. It's about understanding each other's perspectives. As we moved through the session, I felt a shift in our dynamic. It wasn't just about blame, it was about healing. We spent hours talking, pulling apart the layers of hurt and misunderstanding. I learned more about Jennifer's insecurities, and she began to see the toll that my workaholic tendencies had taken on our relationship. But even amidst this progress, there were nights when I would lie awake, the weight of betrayal keeping me from sleep. I'd replay the moments leading up to Jennifer's affair, wondering if there were signs I missed, if I could have done something differently. I had to remind myself that I couldn't carry the burden of her choices alone. After a few sessions, it became clear that rebuilding trust would take time. Dr. Collins emphasized the importance of transparency and communication. You both need to rebuild the foundation of your relationship, brick by brick, she said. It's going to take patience and a willingness to be vulnerable. I implemented small rituals to create connections between us. I started cooking dinner more often, hoping to evoke the warmth of our earlier years. We began having regular date nights, even if they were just at home, and I forced myself to put my phone away and be present. It was hard to shift gears, but I was committed to showing Jennifer that I was trying. Yet, despite our efforts, there were days when the shadows of infidelity loomed large. There were moments when I would catch her staring off into space, and I would wonder whether her mind drifted to Derek. I couldn't shake the jealousy, and it gnawed at me like a persistent itch. One evening after dinner, I decided to confront the elephant in the room. Do you ever think about him? I asked, my heart racing. Are you still emotionally attached to Derek? Jennifer's eyes widened, and I could see the conflict churning within her. I won't lie, there were times I missed the excitement, she said, her voice trembling. But I don't want him, I want us. I made my choice. I felt a wave of relief mixed with dread. It was a hard truth to hear, but I needed to know where she stood. I need you to be honest. There's still something there. We need to address it before we can move forward, I pressed. I promise you, Mark, there's nothing, she insisted. I realized that what I had with Derek was just a distraction. I love you and I want to rebuild our life together. In that moment, I saw a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, the one who was willing to fight for our family. We hugged tightly, and I felt the tension ease, albeit temporarily. But I knew the road ahead was still long and winding. As the weeks continued to pass, I found myself in a battle against my own insecurities. I had moments of doubt that would creep in uninvited, and I constantly questioned if I was making the right choice by staying. But deep down, I recognized that forgiveness was a process, and rebuilding trust was not linear. I also focused on myself during this time. I started exercising again, rediscovering hobbies I had abandoned, and connecting with friends outside of my marriage. I began to feel stronger and more grounded, and it was empowering to know that I wasn't solely defined by my relationship with Jennifer. Our therapy sessions progressed, and I began to feel a cautious optimism. We were learning to communicate better, to express our needs without resorting to blame. I was committed to this journey, even as it felt like walking a tightrope between love and hurt. But in the back of my mind, I still feared the potential fallout. How would this affect our kids? What would our family look like moving forward? I hoped to shield them from the turmoil as best as I could, but I knew the truth was going to come out eventually. I couldn't predict the future, but I was determined to do everything in my power to prevent Jennifer's mistakes from becoming a permanent scar on our family. And so, with newfound strength and hope, I prepared myself for the next chapter, one that would either see us come together or tear us apart. It was scary, but I was ready to face it, whatever it may hold. As the therapy sessions continued, a cautious sense of stability began to settle into our home. Jennifer and I were making progress, but there were still hurdles to overcome. I was learning to let go of some of the anger, and she was working to rebuild the trust she had shattered. Yet, the underlying tension remained, manifesting itself in moments of silence and uncertainty. One particularly poignant evening, we found ourselves sitting together on the couch after a long day. It was one of those rare moments of quiet where the weight of our past felt lighter. I turned to Jennifer and said, "I think we're making strides, but I still feel like there's a lot we haven't talked about." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. There's so much left unsaid." We decided to open up about our fears and insecurities in a more vulnerable way. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what I was about to share. "I'm scared that I'll never fully trust you again," I admitted. "I don't want to live in a constant state of doubt. I hate feeling paranoid." Jennifer reached for my hand, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I understand. I hate that I've put you in this position. I want to earn your trust back, no matter how long it takes. I want you to feel secure with me again." Her sincerity touched me. I knew she was trying, but the road ahead still felt rocky. We decided to establish trust-building exercises, as Dr. Collins had suggested. We would share our daily ups and downs, and I would voice my feelings whenever jealousy or doubt crept in. It was a step, albeit a small one, toward creating a safe space where we could communicate openly. As we worked through our issues in therapy, I started to notice a shift in our home life. Jennifer began to take a more active role in planning the wedding, and I felt proud of her efforts. There was a sense of excitement in the air as we helped our son prepare for his big day. It reminded me of the joy we used to share, and for the first time in months, I dared to hope that we could come out the other side of this stronger. But just as things seemed to be improving, I received an unexpected message that sent my world tumbling again. One evening, as I was winding down from work, I received a text from Tom. He had run into Derek while out with friends. "Hey man, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I saw Derek the other day. I think he's still trying to get in touch with Jennifer," he wrote. My heart raced as a wave of anger crashed over me. Did she really think she could just cut ties with him and that I wouldn't find out? I felt the familiar sting of betrayal wash over me, and my mind raced with questions. Why was he still a part of her life? What did he want? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. That night, I confronted Jennifer again. I got a message from Tom. He saw Derek, and it sounds like he's still trying to reach out to you. What's going on? My voice was steady, but inside I was a bundle of raw nerves. Jennifer's face fell, and I could see the panic rise in her eyes. Mark, I swear I haven't spoken to him since we started therapy. I thought he was out of my life for good. Then why is he trying to contact you? This isn't just about you anymore. I need to know if I can trust you to cut all ties. You need to be clear about what you want. My frustration was bubbling over and I felt like I was back at square one. She took a deep breath, clearly shaken. I'll block him, I promise. I didn't think he'd try to reach out again. I don't want anything to do with him. I want to focus on us. But I wasn't convinced. The fear of losing her again gripped me tightly. You need to understand how serious this is, Jennifer. This is not just about you wanting to be with me. It's about making sure I feel secure in our relationship. Her eyes filled with tears. I know I messed up, but I'm trying. I will do anything to prove to you that you're the only one I want now. In that moment, I realized that fear was controlling both of us. I felt the urge to lash out, but I also knew I needed to take a step back and think. Let's call Dr. Collins tomorrow and talk about this. We need to address this head on. We both agreed to reach out to our therapist for an emergency session. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy on my shoulders, but I knew I had to face this head on. The next day, we met with Dr. Collins and I laid everything out on the table. Tom saw Derek, and it sounds like he's still trying to get in touch with Jennifer. I explained, my voice trembling with frustration. I just don't know if I can trust her to be honest about it. Dr. Collins guided us through the conversation, helping Jennifer articulate her feelings and fears. I want to emphasize the importance of transparency, she said. You both need to establish boundaries that make you both feel secure. Jennifer, what steps are you willing to take to ensure Mark feels safe in this relationship? I'll block him and I'll be open about any contact, she promised, her voice shaky but determined. I don't want to keep anything from you. Listening to her, I realized that this was a pivotal moment for us. It was not just about blocking Derek. It was about rebuilding the foundation of our marriage. Trust had to be earned, not demanded, and I had to be willing to give her the space to prove herself. After therapy, I felt exhausted but strangely hopeful. We had faced the darkness, and now the light seemed a little brighter. I knew there would be bumps in the road ahead, but I also recognized that we were fighting for our family. I was determined to stay the course, even when it felt daunting. That evening, as we settled back into our routine, I saw a glimmer of the bond we had forged over the years. We watched our wedding video together, and amidst the laughter, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could salvage this after all. Maybe the love we once shared could be rekindled, even in the shadows of betrayal. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the same team again. And as we navigated the path toward healing, I held on to the belief that our story was far from over. We were still writing the next chapter, and it was time to make it a good one. As the weeks turned into months, our marriage became a complex tapestry woven together with threads of healing, trust, and hard-earned forgiveness. Therapy sessions with Dr. Collins became a regular part of our routine, and I found myself looking forward to them, not just for the accountability, but for the opportunity to explore the depths of our relationship. Jennifer had taken concrete steps to assert her commitment. She blocked Derek's number, and I watched as she began to rebuild her life around our family. We created a family calendar where we included date nights, family outings, and even time for personal interests. It felt good to have structure, a framework that encouraged us to participate in each other's lives again. Despite the progress we were making, there were days when the shadows of the past loomed large. Moments would arise that triggered old feelings of jealousy or insecurity, whether it was a casual text message or a fleeting mention of a work event. I learned to voice my feelings rather than bottle them up, and Jennifer responded with understanding and patience. "I'm here for you, Mark. Always," she would say, echoing the reassurance I so desperately needed. One Saturday afternoon, we decided to take a family trip to a nearby park. Our kids were excited, and it felt like the perfect way to spend some quality time together. As we walked through the park, watching our son and daughter play, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. It was a reminder of what we had to fight for, the life we had built together, and the future we could still create. That day was a turning point for me. I realized how much I valued the time spent with our kids, and it pushed me to reflect on what truly mattered. I didn't want the betrayal to define our family or overshadow the joy we could have moving forward. When we returned home, I found myself overwhelmed with emotion. I turned to Jennifer and said, "I know. We're not out of the woods yet, but I feel like we're starting to find our way back to each other. I want to keep moving forward together." Tears filled her eyes and she nodded. "I want that too, Mark. I know I've hurt you and I can't change the past, but I'm here and I'm committed to making things right." One evening, while we were sitting in the living room, I noticed Jennifer's phone buzz on the table, a message from a number I didn't recognize. My heart raced as I picked it up, but before I could check, Jennifer reached for it and saw my expression. "It's just a group chat with my friends," she said quickly, but I could see the slight hesitation in her demeanor. "Let me see," I said gently, but my voice was firm. I wanted transparency, and I was ready to address any doubts that lingered in my mind. She handed me the phone and I read the messages. It was indeed harmless, a conversation filled with jokes and plans for a night out. I could feel the tension ease between us, and I realized that I was finally beginning to trust her again, this time without the weight of jealousy hanging over me. As our son's wedding day approached, the excitement bubbled over in our household. Jennifer and I worked together to help him and his fiancée prepare for their special day. It was heartwarming to watch the two of them smile and plan their future together, a future I hoped could be as bright and full of love as ours once was. On the day of the wedding, standing side by side in the backyard while the ceremony unfolded, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Our family was coming together in celebration, and I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. I looked over at Jennifer, who was radiating joy and love as she watched our son exchange vows. In that moment, I knew we were creating new memories, new bonds, and a fresh start. After the ceremony, as the festivities continued, I pulled Jennifer aside. "You've worked hard for this," I said, my voice low. "I see the effort you're putting into our family, into us. I appreciate it." She smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I'm not going anywhere, Mark. I'm committed to us, and I'm grateful you're willing to try again." As the night wore on, we danced and laughed with our family and friends, cherishing the moments together, moments that reminded us of our love. I felt lighter than I had in months, and for the first time I began to believe that we could truly move forward. The road to recovery was still winding, and I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I felt equipped to face them together. I had learned that love isn't just about the good times. It's also about navigating the storms and emerging on the other side stronger than before. In the end, I realized that while Jennifer's betrayal had shaken the foundation of our marriage, it also opened the door to deeper conversations and a greater understanding of each other. I had been given a choice: to let betrayal define me or to use it as a catalyst for growth. So here I am, standing in this new chapter of my life, grateful for the lessons learned and hopeful for what lies ahead. We've taken steps toward healing, and while the past cannot be changed, I believe in the power of love to heal wounds. Together, we are writing a new story, one filled with resilience, trust, and the promise of a brighter future.